Hi everybody, this is Jen from Cookies, Cupcakes, and Cardio.com. Today we're going to be making pumpkin pie cupcakes just in time for Thanksgiving. This recipe takes 3 different stages: a frosting, a crumb base, and the actual cupcake. So make sure you follow all of the directions for the whole thing, and as usual we're going to put all of the ingredients in the show notes at the bottom. And we're going to start out with the first step, which is making the pumpkin pie frosting. So the first step is the frosting, as it takes the longest to bake, and it also needs to completely cool before you put it onto the top of the cupcakes. So what you're going to need are 2 large eggs beaten, 1 can of pumpkin, and not the pumpkin pie filling, just pureed pumpkin, and 1 can is equivalent to 16 ounces. You need 2 tablespoons of molasses, 3/4 of a cup of brown sugar, half a teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, half a teaspoon of ground ginger, 1/4 teaspoon of ground cloves, 1/4 teaspoon of ground nutmeg, 1 tablespoon of flour, and 1 can of evaporated milk, and 1 can is equal to 12 ounces. So before you start mixing, preheat your oven to 425 degrees Fahrenheit. Now getting these ingredients all together is pretty easy. We're just going to put each one of them in and mix them up. So I'm going to do the sugar and the eggs first. Might want to do it gradually. And add the pumpkin. Give it a couple more stirs. You can slowly start adding the milk. And the spices. So I'm going to scrape down the sides of the bowl here, just to make sure everything's getting mixed in. And it smells delicious, just like fall. We're going to keep going, adding in the molasses. And the flour, the salt, and finally the last of the milk. So this is all going to be poured into a greased 9-inch round cake pan. And then it's going to go into the oven at the 425 degrees for 15 minutes. After 15 minutes, you're going to turn the temperature down to 350, and you're going to bake it staying in the oven at 350 for 45 minutes. And again, we'll put all that information in the show notes for you. So pour that into your 9-inch pan. Pop it in the oven. And we'll be back while this is baking to do the next step. So the next step is to make the graham cracker crust. And for this, you're going to need 3/4 of a cup of graham cracker crumbs, 2 tablespoons of brown sugar, and 3 tablespoons of melted butter. So all we're going to do for this is mix everything in here. Probably want to incorporate the brown sugar and the graham cracker crumbs first. And then pour in your melted butter. And then these are going to go just by the teaspoon into the bottom of lined cupcake baking pan. And within the graham cracker crust base, we need to bake it separately first before we put the cupcake topping on. And it's going to bake in the oven at 350 for just 5 minutes. I'm going to dump about that in, and then make sure you have enough to just fill the bottom in. So about a teaspoon for the base. So I'm going to put these into the oven once I've got them all filled for 5 minutes at 350, and then I'll be back to show you how to do the cupcake part. So for the cupcake portion, what we're going to need is 1 3/4 cups of cake flour, 1 cup of sugar, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, 1/2 cup of butter at room temperature, 2 eggs and 1 large egg white, and 1/2 cup of milk. So the first step is to mix together the dry ingredients into a medium-sized bowl. Flour, sugar, baking powder, salt, and the cinnamon. So whisk that together, and then set it aside, and we will put together the wet. So for the wet, we're going to start with the butter and mix it. I'm going to get it creamy and nice and fluffy. And add the eggs in. And remember, there's a 1/3 egg white in there. Vanilla. And 1/2 of the milk. So I'm just going to scrape the butter down off the sides. And then slowly start to add the dry. Give it a scrape. And another addition of dry. And at this point you could add the rest of the milk in. And let's add the rest of the flour mixture. So once it's incorporated, just give it a final scrape along the sides. Make sure everything's incorporated. And set it aside, ready to put it on top of the graham cracker base in the cupcakes. So we'll be right back. So the base of the cupcakes has been browned with the graham crackers, and next we're going to use our cake batter to fill about each of the cupcakes about halfway. And I'm just using about a 2 tablespoon cookie scoop. So once you've got all the cake batter into your cupcakes, you'll want to put them into the oven at 350 degrees for about 18 to 20 minutes, depending on the temperature of your oven and its hot spots and whatnot. You know your oven best. So I'm going to finish these off, pop them into the oven, and then when we're ready to frost them with our filling, we will be back. So to finish off the pumpkin pie cupcakes, what you do is once the filling part has been finished cooking and is cooled down to room temperature, all I did was take it out of the dish and put it into this bowl. And once we've got it cooled and everything's ready to go, I fit a piping bag with a 1M tip, and that's what I'm going to use to pipe over top of the cupcakes. So there you have it, everybody, how to make pumpkin pie cupcakes. So you can see here, this is what it looks like without the wrapper. There it is, cut in half, all the layers, and the completed cupcakes at the bottom. So thanks again for watching. Remember, you can subscribe to us on our channel, and you can find us on Facebook and on Twitter. See you next time.